If you could all join me for item 1.01, the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everyone. Item 1.02 is order and approval of the agenda.
Move to approve. Ooh, second.
We'll do the move and the second down there. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes. Item 1.3, introduction of Elko County School District Special, oh shoot. I'm on the past agenda. Give me one moment, I'm sorry. First week with the new. Almost there. All right, here we go. All right, we're at item 1.03. That's input from the public. I'll waive reading all of that and just say, is there any input from the public? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 2, the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and then a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes. We're to item 3.01. That's receipt, discussion, and possible approval of accounts payable.
Move to approve the accounts payable.
Second.
I have a question.
All right, we'll start with the question.
It's just a question about the buses. Just that the amount for the buses, those are electric buses?
Yes, I think it's 400 and something or other thousand.
And then I thought Cassie was going to be here. But maybe.
No, Cassie can't make it.
Okay.
But yeah, those are for electric buses, and just as a reminder with those, like
Yes.
we have like grant funding and there's tax incentives and things like that, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind the
Yep.
public of, in the times of our budget, of why we're getting buses. So that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, because I just told all of the people that helped, or that recertified bus driving with me yesterday, I'm like, oh no, those were basically free buses. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, Matt lied. Great, thank you.
All right, any further discussion or abstentions?
So, Susan, was there something else you wanted to ask about? And even though Cassie's not here, maybe I could
No,
try to be helpful.
I asked her a couple other questions, and that's fine. It was
Okay.
just the buses. I just wanted the public to be reminded of why we're getting those,
Great.
how we're getting those, I should say. Thank you.
Okay. I'll just disclose that I have a family member that works for Wells Rural Electric, but I won't be abstaining from voting.
And I will also disclose that I have a family member who is employed by Wells Rural Electric, and I will not be abstaining.
All right, any further discussion? All right, we did have a motion and a second on that. Let's, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes. Now we're on to item 4.01. That is receipt, review, and discussion regarding a Cook Center update. Mr. Anderson.
Yep. So we're going to get this presentation up on the screen, I think. And as a reminder, let me see, I'll click through here to the, so we've been, I want to say this is our third or fourth year working with the Cook Center for Human Connection. And continue to do so. It's almost, I think, exclusively been funded either through grant funding or I think maybe it was ESSER at first, but it's been through grants since then. But I'm not going to read this whole slide, but essentially just to remind you, even though you were all around and anyone else listening, that the why of why we've continued to partner with the Cook Center is in the immediate aftermath of COVID, there was we saw glaring gaps in our ability to provide support for people in ways that they were struggling, whether that was from mental health perspective or from a parenting perspective. And so our investment back originally was a bit higher than what it is now. We used to do those webinars and things like that, but we've pared it down to simply this parent coaching portion of the Cook Center offering. And so we continue to prioritize that as, even though we do have some, obviously, we're having to be a little more choosy with our funding. There are very specific title funds that go towards specific areas. And so this is one that helps our at-risk populations and provides those needed supports. We also know that when it comes to mental health and parenting support, lots of times people might be a little hesitant to admit or see people in person to try to get the help they need. And so this provides a nice anonymous way for people to do that. I'm not ashamed to admit that I have utilized this service before, and it's rather helpful. And it's something that people are able to access kind of at their convenience and really just be able to talk to someone about the difficulties and challenges of parenting. And every child is a little different and needs different kinds of support, and doesn't come with a manual. And so it's something we've been excited to be able to provide as a resource for our community, and not just you don't have to have a student who attends an Elko County School District school to be able to take advantage of that opportunity. It's meant for anyone within our county. And along with this partnership with the parent coaching, we also do get unlimited access to all of their kind of offerings of webinars and what are they called, like modules that they can walk through kind of at your own pace if there's like a specific topic you want to look at and work through. So it's been a good resource. And so anyway, that's our why and why we continue to keep doing it. The parent coach, I'm not going to click on all these, but knowing that this was attached to the agenda, anyone could really access this and click on any of these links. All of this is also directly accessible through our district website to get you here. But there's a video to learn more about what this parent coaching is and how to register for parent coaching. And that's available in multiple languages. This is just kind of describes where their methodology and such comes from. But Dr. Kevin Skinner's kind of the genius behind it all and where they base off of their philosophy off of things. And it's really focused around these 6 areas, which are all, I think you can see the value in each of these. These are all things that, communication is present in our portrait of a learner, emotions and emotional well-being, those are present in our student and staff wellness, and really all of this falls under student and staff wellness and family and community engagement. So so people would take that questionnaire, and then parent coaching course is really just a step-by-step opportunity to meet with someone, and you can meet with them as frequently or as infrequently as you'd like. But it's like I said, it's a great way to receive support. Well rated out of the people who participate. Only 24 reviews here, but pretty highly rated. And then these are just, this slide here, these are answers to the question of why do you feel you need coaching? And so parents who engaged in this process at some point over the last few years, they gave their responses. There's a couple of pages of these, but these are what you'll see here, kind of the highlight here is from one thing to the next, there's very different things that people are potentially struggling with and need that support with. And so it's nice to have a resource that is versatile and varied for depending on the needs that people have. And as far as parent coaching registrations go, as we go on from year to year, they continue to increase. And something else we've noticed, I don't think I have a slide of this here, but from our engagement review with the Cook Center, people really do persist with this. It's not like when you get sick and you go get an antibiotic and now your sinus infection's gone. This is continued support as you continue to raise your children, and they have new needs, and you as a parent are growing as well. And so people do persist with this program, and those registrations continue to slowly increase, but yeah, they continue to increase.
May I ask a question
Sure,
before
yeah.
you move to the next slide? Just so I understand those numbers correctly, so those, like the 37 and then the 52 are 52 new people from the 37?
Nope. That's how many coaching registrations were active during that month at that time. So there, in February of 25, there were 37 people registered for coaching, and in February of 26, there were 52. So those are total registrations at that point in time.
Okay, thank you.
The coaching engagement does have multiple elements to it, including, like as I mentioned, the assessments before, there's check-ins, there's different messages, and each of these are relevant because I think the next slide, if I'm not mistaken, shows kind of what those numbers look like. And these are the different ways and the different types, numbers of engagements that, so even though there were 54 registrations in May, you know, these are the number of types of engagements that have occurred since, over time of working with the Cook Center. And then these are just some reviews from people about how much they appreciate the coaching and the benefit it's had to them and their children. And so those are always nice to see, some testimonials. Additionally, so I mentioned kind of their suite of website offerings and things like that. We also do get additional support from them in the form of monthly newsletters that go out through our social media, we can send them out through Peach Jar. We have coaching flyers, and there's prompts, and so we kind of send these things out through our app and our social media. And so even if people aren't engaging necessarily in the coaching specifically, there are other resources that get sent out and people have access to. And that's it.
All right, any questions from the board? All right, hearing none, we'll move on.
We do.
There you go.
I should say thank you, appreciate it. Susan asked a couple of questions that I was asking, or gonna ask, so appreciate the time and the engagement. Hoping that this continues to be a resource for the community.
I just want to ask, how much does it cost us? You said it was paid under grant funding, so I'm just curious.
I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but it's somewhere between $30,000 to $40,000 annually to have access to the coaching and then everything else that comes along with their website and other resources that they send to us.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation.
Of course.
All right, anything further from the board on 4.1? All right, we will move to 4.2. That is the receipt and review of proposed policy GDG04, volunteers, background screening. It's a non-action item, first reading. And we'll hear from Director of Secondary Education, Emily Nilsson.
It's actually going to be me.
It's going to be you?
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
Sorry to disappoint.
Yeah.
She's better than me in lots of ways, but here I am with a microphone, so I'm going to do it. So this is a proposed policy for first read, as you said. Just for, I know it's in the background info of this item, but as legislation gets passed and as legal reviews things and as we work with our insurers, we often are made aware of things that are needed and maybe missing. And so we have, this policy comes from both at the recommendation of our pool pack representation as well as our own legal counsel for specifically having to do with the background screening of volunteers. So we have obviously background screenings of teachers and employed personnel, but when it comes to volunteers, it is less specific, and so it was recommended and we want to make sure we are covering ourselves as it pertains to the people that and I think hopefully everyone can appreciate this is, we worry about putting barriers in place of people being able to volunteer, but we also have to consider the safety and the well-being of every student and staff member, and so doing our due diligence as it pertains to even volunteers in our schools. And so that's what this proposed policy attempts to lay out and kind of answer a lot of the questions around volunteers, because they can volunteer in many different ways, be it from a classroom to riding on a bus to really so many different ways. So anyway, I will leave it at that, and if you have any questions about anything specific, I'm here to try to answer those.
All right, we'll go ahead and open that up for any discussion from the board.
I was just looking at section 3B where it talks about the background screening. Will include fingerprinting and a full state and federal background check. Do the volunteers pay for that? Or is there some kind of discount for the district? How does that work for all of that?
I don't know the answer to that. I know everyone else, you pay for your own screening in other places. So yeah, either way, so I would guess that they have to pay for it, but it should be potentially written in there so people are aware that that's the case. Let me make note of that. Unless, Cody, do you know right off the bat?
I'll find out before the discussion.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
So something that's not on here is how long will this, does the background check apply? So is this annually? Just like, what's our time length there?
Yeah, like if you volunteer as a parent in
Freshman
kindergarten.
year, yeah, kindergarten, are you good till
Or you
senior
get till
year?
they graduate, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So what the required frequency of background screening would be?
And then I had another question, 5. Apologize.
You're good?
Okay, so 5A states that the district employees are responsible for direct supervision of volunteer activities. I can think of previous trips I've been on where there's not going to be enough district employees on those trips, where that's more volunteers than it is, say, okay, so the Coralier trip, right?
Sure.
2 buses, 70 people. That seems like that would be in direct conflict of kind of how things go, And most of those volunteers are, if I remember right, all of those volunteers are parents of students in there. So I don't know how it can be written, but if I know the current director, she's a rule follower, and that will really impede the way that the process works right now. So
Yeah, I think it'll be important to think through those scenarios, because like in the one you mentioned, like technically they're still under the supervision of a driver on that bus potentially, but and those are background checked and district employees from that standpoint where they can drive. So that's someone who is supervising them. But I also know we're thinking of the same trips, and there are times when you obviously, some people go here for dinner and some people go there.
you pull up to the event and they grab the director, and we've got nobody but
Exactly.
like those. So that was just. And then the other one I had was about age. So we have age on here of chaperones. Let's see. I thought it said no one under 25, or is that just for driving?
Did you say 8B?
So that's just for driving then, as far as the age limits? Non-driving chaperones must be at least 21 of age. So my question then is, there's nobody under 21 at that point. So we're minimizing volunteers. Wasn't there a thing about age limits, especially for like coaching assistants and those types of things around 50? So are we limiting that then? Because I know that was a thing a few years back, as far as, and it may have only happened at one site, but as far as age limits associated with volunteers at coaching for sports and whatnot too. So I know this policy would encompass everybody, but just seeing what the age limit would be.
And even some of our coaches aren't paid, right? They are volunteer coaches.
Yes. So
it would
so
apply
kind
there as well.
Yep, so just kind of looking at that, I get that you want to have kind of break between maybe a recent student that recently graduated and a coach, but just figuring out where that is would be, and so I just want to make sure we're okay with 21.
Okay.
If it helps any, the way I was reading that is because it said chaperone both places, driving chaperone and non-driving chaperone, and chaperone is defined up above as somebody in a vehicle. So I assumed that a 19-year-old coach, 20-year-old coach would not be defined as a chaperone, but instead would be defined as a volunteer. Therefore, that age wouldn't make that difference.
And that's what, that's what I was just trying to clarify.
Yeah.
So, yep, just
So,
clarifying.
if
to
it helps
say,
any on that.
If that's only for driving, then, I mean, I kind of get that.
Yep.
But just to make sure everything's covered otherwise, so.
Good notes.
That's all I have for right this second, but I think I had one more question, but I'll let others go, so.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All righty, here we go. Under 2A chaperone, it does say the direct supervision, but it says that the volunteer drives students in a personal vehicle. So how would we supervise if it's in a personal vehicle? Further down in the policy, it does state that a chaperone can't drive their own, can only drive their own children. And so it just seems kind of weird to have language that indicates they could drive somebody else's kids, but then says they can't drive somebody else's kids. So it may just be something that we may be able to clean up there and just make it a little bit better. The part where it says their own kids is, sorry for reference.
Sorry, I want to go back to that.
Sure.
So this is 2A. So did you say that was in conflict with another thing later?
So it just says that they drive students
Yeah.
in personal vehicles, and then it's actually the same one that Josh was just referencing, 8B.
Yeah.
That then says chaperones under age 25 may transport their own student children, but may not transport any other students.
Okay.
And then 8C says chaperones eligible to transport students other than their own children. And so it's one of those things of, well, how do we have direct supervision if they're transporting their own, or they're transporting kids in their own vehicle unless an employee is going with them? And if an employee is going with them, why isn't the employee just driving a district car? I don't know, it just seemed kind of interesting to me on that.
Okay, keep going.
Going back to so this will be page 2 now. 2D as in David defines what volunteer is, and about halfway through it says a volunteer includes without limitation coach, assistant coach, director of in-school or extracurricular activities, and chaperone of an overnight trip. So it's specifically calling out the chaperone on an overnight trip as a volunteer, but not a chaperone of a non-overnight trip. And I think if we just dropped of an overnight trip and just said chaperone, because chaperone is defined up above as either overnight or not, it may just clean up that language a little bit. Same page, sorry, am I going too fast?
Great.
Okay. Same page 3B. Says again, or volunteering as a chaperone for background screening. But again, if it's background screening of a volunteer applicant, we wouldn't necessarily need to have chaperone in there because chaperone is defined up above with volunteer, potentially if that language is changed.
Mm-hmm.
And then page 4, top of the page, 5D as in David. This indicates that this is the section that indicates that they can't give out confidential information. Towards the bottom, it says volunteers may be required to acknowledge in writing. Is there a reason we don't say you will be required to acknowledge in writing? I don't know why we're giving that permissive. And instead of just saying, nope, you're around kids, you will not do this, period, and here's your writing for it. If it's something that legal is saying, well, because we can't force them, I don't know. Just a question I had on that. And I believe that was it. Apparently I made 2 comments that I don't know what I made for because I didn't save them. I like the new diligent, being able to type my own comments and questions and highlights in there, by the way. I think it just had to do with going back and forth between, because it was again down in 8, B, and C. So I think I already commented those. So I believe that is it. Okay, thank you.
I have first, this is just a formatting issue. At the top, the policy, the code has periods between them and our other ones don't, or it appears that most of them don't.
Yeah, we tried to stop doing that. Yep.
And then under the definitions, maybe this is silly, I think volunteer should be first, just because the title of the policy is volunteers. So I'd rather have that definition first, but that's just me, so if others don't agree, that's fine. And I'll try not to repeat what the others have said. I hope that we don't lose volunteers, because like you said earlier, we're doing, I mean,
We need them.
we understand the reason. Yep. I just hope people won't let that stop them from volunteering. Let's see, under 8A, I have to understand my own question here. I thought there couldn't be a supervisor for events or activities. Is what I had written down. Yeah. So just some of the wording gets me confused between volunteer, chaperone, who can do what, who can't.
Yeah.
Other duties may include serving as a chaperone or supervisor. So they can, as long as a district employee is still around for that last sentence.
Yeah, I think I don't know, when you called that out, my brain first went to, they have to be under the supervision of someone else, so why are they the supervisor or are they not? I get the feeling that we're gonna wanna, I'm guessing there's a lot of nuance to the terminology, right? A volunteer versus a chaperone versus a supervisor, et cetera. And so maybe a better grasp on that. Some of this might make a little more sense, but yeah, it's probably got something to do with that.
And then 8C, so people are going to take their vehicle up to the bus barn to have their car evaluated? And then it says a valid driver's license, so will we be taking a copy of that and keeping it? Like, what will we do with that information? They just have to show it to them, like a copy of their current vehicle insurance. So what are we gonna do with all this paperwork? Like, will it be shredded at the end of just those kind of things? Like, I would wonder about that if I were coming up there having someone inspect my vehicle. And then are we liable if they inspected it and then something happens and they didn't catch it? Just throwing thoughts out there.
That's good thoughts.
And then under 9B, and maybe I'm just mixed up, it talks about a volunteer doesn't receive wages, but yet under the definition of volunteer, it gives a coach as an example. I thought some of our coaches were paid.
Some are not. Yeah, there are paid and unpaid. Sorry, there are paid coaches and there are volunteer coaches.
Okay, then that explains that one.
And that just has to do with the size of the school and the program. They're allotted so many stipends.
Okay. Other than that, that's
Okay.
I apologize. I remembered one of the comments that I hadn't saved, and then I thought of a second thing. At the very top, we have kind of like 2 introductory paragraphs. We don't have that in very many of our policies. And I understand kind of having the reason behind why we're doing the policy, but I would like to see if we're going to start doing this, because I think it is good to show what the intent of the board is. It gives some background on that. I just would like to see that as we move forward when we introduce more, but that means more writing. So, which is kind of in conflict with what I'd like to say of just get to the policy. We don't care about the rest. I just want to know what I can and can't do. So just a comment of something to look at. And then going back to what Susan had mentioned on the inspection for the vehicle, which is under, let's see, page 4.8, C as in Charlie. It says that the vehicle must be inspected by the Director of Transportation with 24, and I think it's supposed to be within. But the other thing, more important, I think, to that may be, Seth, you never get to take vacation ever again. So it may be or designee.
Yeah.
Or just don't ever take a vacation near any potential out-of-town trip or, field trip.
Which happen constantly.
Thank you very much. Again.
Okay.
I just had
Give them a
one
week in the summer, maybe.
I just had one other question. So on the volunteers, what if you have a parent that can go on one field trip a year and they really want to go, but they haven't got a background check? Does that preclude them from participating in that field trip? Can they just not ride on the bus? How does that work?
Gotcha. I'm not answering your question, but yeah.
That's
Got it.
totally fine. That's just the question to be answered
Yep.
when it is answered.
So I just have a question. Let's say I just wanted to volunteer in my kid's classroom. I have to have a background check in order to do that?
That's what it says.
Yeah, okay. And then my other question is, they've pretty much covered everything exactly what I was gonna cover, but the one where it talks about direct contact with children, or no, direct supervision, sorry. And then it talks about what direct supervision is, within 30 yards in the same room or within sight, if they're outdoors. I can name a handful of instances every year when I volunteer that just is not even it's not even reasonable, honestly. When I volunteer at, what do they call them, field day,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'm not within line of sight or 30 yards of any staff. When I volunteer with the Corliers and we're taking kids through Disneyland on the day off or whatever, we're off doing our own things.
You're at the top of the roller coaster and they're at the bottom.
Right.
It's more than 30 yards.
I don't know, so I
The
see,
airport.
I see big
Yeah.
problems with that.
Okay, gotcha.
And then the only other thing that I had here is I have driven students in my own personal vehicle, and it talks about, I don't even remember where it was, that if there's an
8D and
accident, it's
C.
covered, yeah.
8D, in the event of an accident, the chaperone, driver, owner of the vehicle understands and agrees that the driver owner will have primary liability for all claims and damages.
Yeah. But then if you go down to, let's see, 9C, it says volunteers are covered under the district's liability and workers' compensation policies while performing authorized duties and activities. Do those conflict with each other at all?
So 8D and 9C.
But otherwise, they pretty much covered everything I can think of. Other than the one question I have, just kind of how this would look in practice, is the training that they do for volunteers, and it talks about, let's see.
7.
7? Okay. Yeah, talks about recommended volunteer training includes, but is not limited to, and it lists everything. So is that mandatory, or is it just recommended that volunteers are trained? Because I volunteer for field trips and in the classroom and overnight field trips and all sorts of stuff, and I've never had anything like that.
The verbiage here doesn't make any of it required. It talks about they'll be given information specific to their duties, and then it talks about recommended trainings.
Okay.
So that's how it reads now.
Okay. I think that's all I have to add to everything else.
Have one question. And 6, parental notification, says parents will be notified the schools use volunteers. And then parents should notify the school if there's concerns about contact between a specific volunteer. So do they get it like a list of who's gonna be volunteering? Or how do they know if they don't want someone?
No, it doesn't look like it's saying we would need to do that, but it sounds like in the event that a parent is unhappy with a certain volunteer, they would probably complain about it, and then you would handle that as an administrator. That's kind of how I look at that.
That brings up one more question that I had. Who oversees all of this, and is there like a master list that's given to all the schools on who are approved volunteers because they've had their background checks and whatever training or whatever is necessary? Because like at one point I had kids in 4 different schools, and so yeah, along with the how long does this background check last? If I get my background check when my kid's in kindergarten, is it still good when they're in 11th grade? Also, just kind of the how's information, who's overseeing all of this? Who's making sure that everybody has had all these things done? And how does that information get disseminated to different school principals and teachers?
Okay. Is that it?
Well, no, yeah,
That's-
right?
that's
I
gonna be
mean, well, and I still
Okay.
have 2 more. I did reserve, I said I had a couple more, but is that okay, Jen?
Yeah, go right ahead, I'll go last.
Okay, so, so on 6A coming in, so basically, we're gonna notify, so it's not like they're just gonna put it in, like, the initial paperwork when they first get there? Like, I don't,
Yeah, I mean, that could be as
I
simple
mean, like, why
as,
wouldn't you know that there's volunteers at a school? I don't understand that, so.
that could be as simple as, I don't know, just on
Hey, we
your
got volunteers
website.
here.
On your website. We have volunteers at our
Yeah,
school.
day 1, there's volunteers on campus. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, 8C, the time frame on there is just 24 to 48 hours. I would just suggest that we push that out, just in case maybe it's a Sunday departure or something to that extent, just so that we have it, so it gives them options as far as doing it. And then 3, if we're gonna put minimum required coverage, is that our minimum? Is that just the state minimum required coverage, which we know Nevada has? And then I appreciate the question as far as what are we doing with all that?
Sorry, which?
8C III. It says valid driver's license, a copy of the current vehicle and insurance. And yeah, I think that we should look into what kind of liability we have associated with that. If we're implying that this is safe,
Yeah.
and it's not,
Yeah.
what kind of liability do we have at that point? And now I rest, I promise.
President?
All right, anyone else there?
I lied.
Go ahead, I'm going last, you go ahead.
Is there anything in here, if an employee wants to volunteer, is there anything that needs to be addressed in here? Just something to throw out, to think about. I have no specifics, just
Yep.
Could I just ask for an example of a chaperone transporting a student, not an employee?
I don't know. Not sure. So.
Because I'm
yeah.
trying to think of how that would happen. I just couldn't think of anything, because,
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
Would that be like a tournament or something? Like maybe their hotel to the
but wouldn't you
tournament?
be taking your own?
Yeah,
Oh,
you're
you
not
mean like from the
chaperoning, really.
hotel to
Something
the
like that, yeah.
tournament?
Well, so you've got, so let's do corollaries again, because I did 4 years, 10 years of that. So you've got a student that's not feeling well, and so they stay at the hotel while everyone else goes and does whatever the activities of the day are. And you've got, and then all of a sudden, they're cleared or whatever, and you've got to take them somewhere. Now you're responsible for that. By definition of this, anything that we've done in the past to do that, where it relieves the burden, because there's 70 of them for the director. Now the chaperones, because of this, we can't do anything we've done in the past, which was someone stay behind, make sure they're doing okay, make sure they've got their whatever they need at that point. So now we have to, and by that argument, now we have to make sure that we have so many district staff per trip, which then increase the burden, increase the pay, and all the other things too as well. So the way this is written right now is it's not compatible. I would say it's not compatible with real life, but it's not compatible with the way the way that we do it presently.
Yeah, because is there some way you can put in, like in case of emergency,
I would think there'd be some.
because
yeah.
they, I don't know, I just couldn't think of an
This
example.
definitely feels very like CYA, kind of.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Feasible scenario, kind of to protect yourself. That's what it feels like. Which
That's
is
what,
tough to, which isn't practical all the time. Yeah.
yeah. I won't even say what it was for, but I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus. And maybe it wasn't like a school sanctioned thing, but for an activity that one of my kids participates in, they go do a retreat type thing as for this group, and parents volunteer to drive kids.
Mhm.
It's usually moms with expeditions that can haul about 8. So, I have hauled,
An example.
yeah, my own kids with some of their classmates in the vehicle with me to different things. So, yeah.
Where'd Jeff go?
All right, anything? Well, I'm last, so. Just two things I would like to see in section 3 under background screening. Number one is who is actually paying for that screening?
Yep.
I think we should define that in there, that it's at, I'm assuming that's gonna be at the volunteer's expense. Another thing I'd like to see is a waiver there for, there's certain jobs out there, for example, if you're an active or retired law enforcement, maybe that could provide a waiver. If you hold a concealed carry permit, maybe that could provide a waiver because you go through those same things, fingerprinting and background check with the sheriff's office. So I'd like to see, I know, especially here in Elko County, there's gonna be a lot of people that maybe fit those qualifications, and we could use that. You know, I'd like to check with legal and see if that's permissible to have that as a waiver. It'd make it easier for everyone involved.
Okay. Got it.
Can I ask one more thing about fingerprinting?
I'm not last.
Yeah, sorry. It's not because I want the last word. But fingerprinting is only the sheriff's office, like here in Elko, is the sheriff's office the only place to do that? But what if they're in Jackpot? Where do they do that at? Do they have to drive down here? Any local
There
authority?
are different ways to do fingerprinting.
Okay.
It's not just the sheriff's office.
I just don't want to limit like a outlying area or something that doesn't have access.
I know you can do them in Wendover.
Mhm.
I just want to make sure that it's convenient for people. And what is the cost?
Yep.
And does the sheriff's office probably should get a heads up that we're going to do this? Or not, I don't know, because
Yeah.
I don't want it to
Yeah.
prevent people from volunteering because,
That's
Yeah.
part of why I'd like to see the correlation, if possible, between a concealed carry permit or something like that, because that's a function that the sheriff's office already engages in. And if you're gonna pay money already, you might as well get two. I mean, for those that want to.
Yeah, I was just thinking with the whole training thing too. I don't think that it's a bad idea that there is training for volunteers. Some kind of a children protection training that maybe can be done quickly online. I know other organizations do something similar to that.
Maybe the Cook Center has something available, since we already utilized their services.
Or pool or
Pool,
something, yeah.
Well, this policy is at their recommendation too, so.
Yeah, and then the only other thing,
Other districts tore it apart like we did.
yeah, the only other thing that I can think of is when I went to do the background check and everything, like, it takes some time.
It does.
And so if teachers need volunteers, like, they usually are reaching out week prior, 2 weeks max. That may not even be enough time to go and, you know, do all the things that are needed to have just a parent come in to help out with the Halloween party. So anyways, just some thoughts.
All right, I think we're good to go on that one. If anybody has anything further, send that in and we'll get it back soon in another meeting for a second reading. We'll move on now to 4.3, that's receipt and review of proposed policy GBB32, district vehicles. Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, so this is a companion policy to one we passed a while back. And this one has to do with driving specifically district vehicles. So it's a proposed policy, it's new, and It has to do with ability to operate district vehicles, what is and is not appropriate usage of them, etc.
All righty, I'll jump in.
Yeah, I'm so ready.
Okay.
Go for it.
1B2 indicates that the driver must report to his or her supervisor a conviction for driving under the influence. I'd like to see immediately. On the bus side, we are required to immediately do that. I see no reason why the rest of the transportation should not have the same.
Yep.
And on page 3, 5A, employee drivers in an accident will be subject to drug or alcohol. I don't know if it's may because of cost, but again, it's permissive, and I don't know why we would do that, unless, of course, we have lots of accidents, and we're like, that's really expensive, so just a thought.
Okay.
Question about what Matt just said. I thought you had to test. Like, I was always told if you got into an accident, you need to find a place to go test somewhere. Is that not or not what happens now?
Seth has an answer.
Great.
On. So what's required by law right now, Susan, is if it's an injury involved, an at-fault accident, then you're required to test.
Oh, okay. And then same thing with this policy, the formatting with the periods between those.
Yep.
And then on 5B, where it talks about calling the transportation department, is that number posted in the cars? Because I would have no idea what number to call. It is?
Is it in every car?
Yeah, it's in the.
There's like a binder
Okay.
or something in there.
I just wanted to make sure. And then does this prevent people from an outlying area that come in to like stop to get dinner or anything in a school car or a coffee before they go back?
Does what?
On number 3, sorry. You know, it's, because
Section
that's
3?
kind of, yeah, I mean,
As someone who spends a lot of time in a district car, I absolutely stop for a meal while I'm going from
Yeah.
place to place. So I think as long as it's during,
I just didn't know if that should be in
Personal
the
business,
policy
yeah.
or not.
yeah, or
And
sorry,
then-
for district business.
One last question on 5C. The district's defensive driving course,
Yep.
is that for insurance reasons of why that's in the policy to take? I mean,
Seth,
maybe
he's
just
nodding.
start with
He's
what's
nodding,
the
yes.
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, full pact is requiring, part of that is this policy was also requested by them also.
Okay.
Sorry, Seth,
We-
can you use
We need
your
a
mic?
microphone, yeah, that has to be on the record.
Yes, the answer to that was yes. Pool Pact actually asked us for this policy also, and their requirement for the defensive driving course is actually a Pool Pact course.
Okay, and I like Pool Pact in their courses, but that particular course I took last spring because of our visiting author who also had to take it. I don't see how it's any different. I have a valid driver's license. It didn't teach me anything I didn't already know. But it takes, I don't know, 10 minutes or 15 to take it. It just seems like a waste of time, but that's why I was wondering if if it's mandatory, so that answers that.
Got it.
Ooh, can I ask? My turn? Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Oh, thanks. So, 4A states the vehicle maintenance schedules is established by the Transportation Department. We would be giving them a car that would be required, like the way I read it is that like if they're gone, then they have to go get an oil change while they're over in Salt Lake and they went on a different trip because they have to maintain it. I get that you don't, but I wouldn't think we'd give a vehicle. Like they need to know that it's there, so they should turn it back into transportation as what?
Yeah, that's more meant for the vehicles that are
Like
out into somebody for long-term. for
that
the
are
school
stationed
year,
elsewhere.
that, yeah, we'll contact them when it's due for service and they bring it in. Yeah. For people that have it for the entire school year. It's not for single trips, yeah.
Okay, so I understand now.
Yeah.
Okay, yep, so you're just saying, hey, you have that for the school year, you need to bring it in for its oil changes.
Correct.
Okay, cool. So then up 5BV, 5B5.
5. Mhm.
Yeah. You have one business day on there, if they're in an accident. I don't know that one business day is enough. I get you want it done, not saying we don't. You want it as soon as possible so they remember what happened. But I don't know if that's enough time. Yeah, I don't care that you're laid up in the hospital, get your thing done, yeah. Like I mean, obviously as reasonable possible, maybe, or as reasonably,
Yeah.
something to that extent, okay. And then 5C, again, so there's no cost to us to use that driving defense course then?
It's part of our
There's not part
being
of
with pullback, yeah.
Okay, so then, I'm just gonna ask the question, what if I don't?
I believe you would no longer be able to drive a district vehicle.
Okay, so if it's not a priority to me, then I don't have to. I'm being very, you guys think that this is the future, so.
Yeah, that's-
Yeah,
that's-
if you
that's
think it's
what I would
just
say.
me, like, no, this is the future. These are your future employees that are gonna ask these questions. Yeah, and they're like, I don't want to, then they won't. That's the next generation. They'll question you, and they, if it's not a priority for them, they won't. That's different than all of us in this room, I believe, so. But I understand that they're at the last phrase there that doesn't have anything associated with it, just says any misuse of the district vehicle, disciplinary action up to including termination. I get that. But I just want to make sure that, you have those. What are the consequences associated with it? And if there really is just not using the car, then I get it, so. I'm glad I can make you laugh about it.
Yeah, we wouldn't terminate someone for not taking a driver's defensive driving course, yeah. I hear what you're saying, though. Thank you.
All right, anything further on this policy?
I just had one thing.
Sure.
Matt mentioned 5A and talking about that one. We could just add the words "in at-fault accident" when it talks about may be subject to drug or alcohol testing. Because if somebody hits them and it's not their fault, then why would we require that? So we've mentioned at-fault accidents in several other items under that same number. So could we just add at-fault in 5A as well?
I'd also add a lot in these situations, when you have an accident of that severity, you're gonna have law enforcement involved. And they're most likely drug recognition experts and DUI experts, and they're gonna probably require some testing of their own if they suspect anything. So just to throw that out there.
Okay, I have a couple things. Okay, so let's see. Okay, if a car is not available, which I know happens sometimes, and an employee is authorized to drive their personal vehicle for district purposes instead of a district vehicle, does the district's insurance provide coverage, or is it the employee's personal auto insurance that covers that?
I don't know the answer to that question, but this
Sometimes-
policy would not apply in that scenario.
But sometimes, it's just a question I have, because sometimes cars aren't always available.
Yep.
Okay, so then, this kind of goes towards the same question, but also a little bit related to the last policy we went over, is does the district require a proof of insurance from employees or volunteers, or from employees who use personal vehicles to transport students? Because it's required for volunteers. What about employees? Because I know there are some employees in instances that have driven their own personal vehicles with students in them. So.
Good question.
Um,
I'm not sure it goes under either of these policies, but
It's, yeah, kind of related to both, but.
It is, I agree.
Anyway, and then, let's see. I just wondered, are the district vehicles tracked in any way? So I know as a business, we use Samsara,
Just kidding.
and we track, I just didn't know if we're doing that as a district.
Seth?
Can I plead the fifth? Yes, they are,
Okay,
with Samsara.
okay, because that's what I was just wondering is how,
They know where you've been shopping, Brooke.
well, I'm just wondering with, is it 2A? District-owned vehicles shall only be used for activities related to the employee's official duties. We track vehicles and we have caught some of our employees using vehicles for not
Us
work.
too.
So,
Yeah,
okay, I
so have
wondered
we.
if that was happening here.
Yep.
And then, how is it, like, how do you review fuel purchases to ensure that they're only being used for district purposes?
We have a binder where you track your mileage for everything, and so those get turned in. You can correct me, Seth, but we turn those binders in with the mileage there, and I would assume they're audited and checked for reasonable amounts of miles between places. So if I put that I went to Reno for a meeting and came back, and he sees that 1,500 miles went on the car, that was a lot more than going to Reno and going out to dinner. So I think you could kind of spot check those things and audit them for reasonable use.
Yeah, that's how we do that. They're turned in every month and then gone through and matched with fuel receipts that are turned in. But yeah, so if you're driving a Camry and you have a fuel purchase for 100 gallons of diesel, yeah, we're gonna question that, yeah.
Yep.
That was it for me.
All right, anything further there on 4.3? All right, we'll look for that one to come forward again for a second reading. Moving to 4.4, that's review, discussion, and possible approval of proposed changes to policy EFDD, public records. Mr. Anderson.
Yep. So this was at our last meeting, and we did not have a whole lot of feedback. So it is back before you again, and for approval if you deem it ready for approval.
Move to approve policy EFDD red version, well,
Second.
new version.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I apologize for not being at the last meeting, so could I ask a question about social media posts? And the reason why I ask it, at one of my first NASB conferences, there was a session on public records, and they spoke about social media and that's subject to public records. So what I'm wondering is if someone comments on a school district post and then they delete it for, however many minutes, that was public record. So is the district still responsible if someone were to request that particular post and its comments? Are we still responsible for that comment? And I only ask that because the way I understood it, that yes, we are. So I just, and that's been a few years, so, and I'm old and forget things, so maybe I misunderstood it. But I do kind of worry about that because then you almost need a program to record Facebook or never have comments, I guess, on it.
Okay, I've made a note about it. I guess I'll just add to the side if that's something that you feel is very important before this is voted on, then we don't have to pass it tonight. But I don't know the answer to your question. I'd have to look it up.
Okay.
Find out.
And
I'm curious about the specific section you're talking about here and what we're looking at in the policy that wouldn't follow that.
could see it falling under just like we're looking, all public books and records of the district shall be made available
Yeah,
during.
your
regular-
social media is a public record, so,
It would be the social media we established, though, not.
I think that's what she's saying. If on
Someone
our
else
Facebook
writes.
page, somebody commented on our
Yeah.
Facebook page, that's our social media. And do we have to be responsible for tracking all of that and having an
Seems a little
inventory basically of
unreasonable
everything?
overall, though. I mean, we're not in charge of no, we would be in charge of deleting the whole account. But like if someone's posting and deleting,
but the way I understood when that lady presented it, we are responsible for that.
for other people's comments, I think a reasonable,
our social
well,
media.
most things are reasonable. Who would a reasonable person articulate? And that just seems like that would be outside of reasonable. You would have to regulate and snapshot those when it's not something you actively do in the.
And I'm not saying that, and I could be completely wrong, which won't be the first time. So I just want to double check on that. I'm fine if it comes back that we really do need to do that, we could.
Now, if we delete it, I can see if we delete, like if the owner of the account deletes it, I could see maybe that would be. But then
No,
again,
and I get
somebody
that
of the
too.
public puts it and they delete their own comment.
I just want to make sure.
If I can just throw like a couple thoughts in here. So two things that sort of govern, I think, these situations. Number one, when you think about what a public records request requires a district to do, or a school district to do, is we are required to provide records that exist of something, right? And so if we don't have an existing record of these comments, then we don't have to make a record. That's how typically that works. Now, I could see if this were well beyond just a simple public records request and we're getting into litigation and subpoenaing records and things like that, it could get a little more, a little more intense, and you go to the social media company and you go, because they're not just gonna hand that stuff over either. They're gonna wanna know the reason, and you're gonna have to provide the appropriate paperwork. But just simply looking at this from a public record standpoint, that is one of those governing principles, is you are not required to create any records for anybody. And so whatever record you do have when the request is made, that's the record that you have. And so that might apply in this type of scenario.
Okay. And just on a side note, for NRS Chapter 239, they really need to update and add social media to their, not that we're in charge of that, but
Right.
just looking at that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, we do have a motion and a second on this to accept this policy as written. Go ahead and take a vote. Anyone in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, and motion passes. All right. Moving to 4.5. That is receipt, review, and discussion regarding ECSD strategic plan, Pillar 1, students prepared for the future. It's a non-action item. Mr. Anderson?
Yep, me again. RJ, if you could get that up on the screen, I'd appreciate it. So as part of our moving forward stuff, we're going to try to have more frequent attention on our strategic plan pillars, our goals, and progress that's being made towards them. The last time I talked about this, it was at great length and everything we've done over the 3 years previous or something like that. So we're just gonna share a little bit about a few things today. So we're gonna look at some things from Pillar 1, which, as you stated, was students prepared for the future. Underneath this category, we also put here the superintendent goals. Those were established at a recent meeting, and so two of those priority goals that you all chose, or I guess we collectively chose, I put some opinion in those as well, is to continue our implementation of a portrait of a learner, and also to continue to strengthen and expand our CTE pathways and offerings. We continue to be very excited. I know I'm excited. Maybe people not everyone shares my enthusiasm for the portrait, but I sure do love it, and I love all the work that's gone into it, and I know we're still doing plenty more. So I want to talk about this for a little bit, and its importance. So coming up here soon, actually a week from today, is our convocation, and I think you're all aware, but just for general knowledge, we have, we're somewhere in the realm of late phase 2 or stream 2 and stream 3 of the implementation of a portrait of a learner, to where there is, it's not just theoretical, we're actually doing actionable things to start moving forward and implementing into all our classrooms. And so a big part of that is now that so many people have been involved and we are ready to take those next steps to incorporate it into every content area and every classroom across our district, is our convocation this year is going to focus completely on the portrait of a learner. And we're gonna be doing that next week. So Tuesday, we are going to have like a kind of a two-sided approach. Number one, there's going to be like a whole session with everybody where I will present along with our partner Janice Case from NCEE, who's helped us. She helps with a lot of things at the state level and also has helped us individually as a school district in developing our portrait and helping guide that work, guide us through that work. And then in addition to kind of the full group session, there will also be breakout sessions based on content area and or grade level, where teachers will be able to, teachers and classified staff that work directly with students in classrooms will learn about different bright spots around the district where people are already doing a great job of implementing parts of our portrait of a learner, and where we can strengthen and further amplify those. So just by way of information, there's some times up there. We will have 2 different sessions so we can fit, have everybody be in there because we don't all fit at once. And we have, I think an email went out today, you should have got it, with locations of all those different sessions, and it'll be awesome to start really rolling that out to everybody. And so that's what's going on most recently with our portrait of a learner. And we are still working on those learning progressions. We are still moving forward with those next steps. In addition, and that's what this fall 2026 ongoing goals refers to. So we're going to continue to identify opportunities for our classified staff, maybe those who aren't directly working with students in the classroom from an instructional standpoint, like how, because what we want people to understand is regardless of what your role is, I always say there's no just, you're not a just in anything. Everyone who interacts with our students is important in their education journey, and so making sure it's pretty obvious and specific how you as a fill in the blank can positively impact kids and help them work towards the competencies of our portrait of a learner. We also are going to, we use that word crosswalking in education a lot. It helps to connect what people do with the portrait and again, as I said before, finalizing learning progressions. So we're moving forward with that, and it's exciting. These are the 4, well, there's 2 on the screen, but there's 2 on the next one as well. These are our 4 competencies, just as by way of reminder, where our students, we in addition to learning content, we also want them to become creative problem solvers, responsible and engaged learners, capable communicators, and trustworthy leaders. Right, next, I know this is a topic a lot of you are passionate about, and so are we, and that is good things happening in the realm of expanding CTE pathways and offerings. We got exciting news semi-recently, and we'll be sure to hopefully get him in for a board meeting for recognition soon, but our teacher out in Wells, our ag teacher, Mr. Don Norda, received the Nevada Lifetime Achievement Award from the Nevada Association of CTE. He's the best. Love Mr. Norda. Such a great teacher, inspirational, had so many kids do so many great things under his leadership, and he would say he's just lucky to be around so many great kids, but that doesn't happen by coincidence. So he's incredible, and we're really proud of him and grateful to have him. Additionally, we've received over $1 million in grant funding for CTE programs for FY27. I'm not going to read everything there, but these are all different ways the funds will be used, and some of those have to do with going about the activities that our CTSOs do, but there's also, you can see expansion of a fire science program and launching an EMS program. And so that is directly relevant to expanding our CTE pathways and offerings. And so we continue to make that a priority, knowing how important that is for our students and their future aspirations and helping them become responsible and engaged learners and prepared for the future. Here we're just going to highlight a few more things. So our communications specialist, Kayla, as well as working with Heather Steele and our CTE teams, they joined together to hold some facilitated insight sessions with a partner called Rhodes Branding. They came here and did production at 3 of our high school campuses, and we also audited our existing dual credit CTE materials. All of this to highlight the good things that are happening. This Rhodes Branding is working on total content production of their time here. They interviewed kids, they interviewed staff. They really just kind of 360 view of a lot of the things we're doing here with CTE in our district. And we're expecting to launch some of that social media and posters and different graphics to highlight that good work that's been going on. And we also are working with multiple partners, post-secondary partners. So we have GBC across the road, and we work with others post-secondary partners from other parts of the state where we can find those opportunities to make sure that our physical location is not a limitation to what our students can access. And so this branding project is specific to GBC, but we do work with others as well. And then the last, I believe this is the last element I wanted to just fill you in on as an update. I know back in the spring we talked about the possibility of, and then I think I later updated that we officially secured the funds, but we were able to receive another grant of just over $1 million from some folks at the state who continue to believe in the STAR Academy and what it can help accomplish for some of our students who are not experiencing as much success in the traditional classroom environment, and making that a little more hands-on, a little more career-oriented, and helping those students re-engage in their education. And so that funding was awarded to establish a second academy at Adobe Middle School. I'm going to be happy for Lyon County as well. They were able to secure some funds to do an academy at one of their schools. And I know a big part of why we received another grant as well as Lyon got theirs was because of the good work that was going on at Adobe. So I think that speaks volumes about how hard they worked and how much progress those students made. So we are currently, I know we only have a couple weeks till school starts, but pretty much all summer we've been working through these through the necessary processes of this, and that involves getting our teachers trained and getting the classroom set up and everything that goes along with it. There is a video attached to this. Was I supposed to play it, or is it just there by way? Okay. All right. So it's a great video. The NOLA Education has the STAR Academy. That's their program, and that they put in schools, and so they're real big fans of Adobe Middle School in Elko County, and they love it out here, and they love our students and our staff, and they came and made a wonderful video highlighting the wonderful staff, the parents, the students, everyone who's involved in the first couple of years of the STAR Academy. And so if you haven't seen that video yet, I would encourage you to check it out. But yeah, we're excited to have our third cohort or third year of doing this. Technically, there'll be 2 cohorts this year, and so yeah, STAR Academy is moving forward and relevant to the CTE because, as I mentioned, all of their core curriculum is run through the lens of career orientation and hoping with the idea of if they get excited about that, they enter directly into a CTE pathway that they're passionate about when they get to the high school, assuming most of them go from Adobe to Elko High. So, okay. And that is the update on some of the great things that are happening under Pillar 1 and under those 2 goals. Any questions?
Just got to say, it's been really cool to see that STAR Academy come from those very first meetings we had and, you know, looking at it positively going forward to seeing what it's really done. It's been, I think, one of the home runs we've hit in the last few years.
Yeah.
So,
I've hosted a lot of people to walk through Adobe Middle School, and whether it's the lieutenant governor or people from other schools or so many people. And Adobe's been very gracious and it's just happily taking the next group of people through to check it out. And it never ceases to amaze me when I walk in those classrooms, because I know, like, we often talk about kids as data points, and that always drives me a little nuts, but I know what the data is behind those students, what their data said about them a year before, and to walk into those classrooms and see the way they're engaged and the way they are enjoying school is like, that's the miracle of it all for me, is that these are kids who hated school and now they don't hate school. They're enjoying their learning and they're taking ownership of their learning, and it's really embracing our strategic plan. It's really embracing what we know we value from our Portrait of a Learner. So Star Academy definitely, definitely points towards and helps us make progress towards what we're trying to accomplish for all of our students. I love it.
all right, any questions, comments from the board?
Mr. Chair, if I may, how do our students do after they leave the Star Academy? We've got kids that have now been out of it 2 years. What are we seeing with those students after they are done?
So, that's some longitudinal data that does take time. And when our first group that would have been freshmen last year at Elko High are now going to their sophomore year, there were very intentional efforts made when they transitioned from 8th grade to 9th grade to still have some cohesiveness there and to help kind of mentor them and corral them in the right direction to make sure that you don't lose that momentum. I hesitate to speak too much about what that data is at this point because of how short an amount of time it feels like it would be reactionary and not really. It's just the way this stuff works, is you try stuff and we'll see how, time will tell. But what we do know is where they were and where they are now, and we'll continue to monitor that. And as I mentioned in one of my in one of my previous superintendent's reports, is that's actually the focus of my doctoral dissertation now, and so I will certainly have additional data for you as time goes on with that.
So I do have 2 more questions, sorry.
Yep.
When we're talking about the new CTE programs and how can students in outlying schools participate in those programs? Do we have any way for that to happen? Say a student in Hawaii wants to participate in the EMS program. Is there any way for outlying students to participate in any of those new CTE programs if it's not offered on their campus?
I would encourage that student to speak with their counselor about that interest, and they would connect with our staff at those other schools where those programs are offered and with our CTE coordinator to see if there's a way that we can facilitate that for them.
Thank you. And just one other question. What is HTC? It's on slide 4.
Oh, that's the High Tech Center.
Tech Center.
It's
Okay.
that
Thank you. Just
building
making
right
sure.
over there.
Yep. At GPC. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, anything further, board? All right, thank you for that presentation. And we will move now to item 4.6. It's review, discussion, and possible approval of superintendent evaluation mathematical cutoffs. It's for possible action. That's presented by us. I'll defer to you, Trustee McCarty.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we were tasked with trying to find something that would be fair to the superintendent, but at the same time, give that opportunity for reasonable evaluation. So I did originally propose a series of bands, and those bands are listed under here at 4.6. There are 4 sheets that I handed out, 2 different options. Notice the footnote at the bottom. Keep in mind that the first page that starts at the top with band 1, flip it over and it'll show you band 2. So option 1 is the one that I had originally proposed. It was pointed out that there were a lot of ones and twos, not very many options for threes and fours. And so I went back through and kind of looked that over, and sure enough, but when I looked at what we could adjust, it really only adjusted about 9 different scores. So 2/3 of all possible 120 scorings using 7 trustees still result in a 1 or a 2. However, that obviously spreads it quite a bit. So the second part that I had suggested with President Durham was that if a majority of trustees voted for a specific band that the average did not fall into, that be moved. The language was not very clean when I first submitted it to Hillary, and I apologize on that because the language currently says by more than 1 rating level, and it shouldn't say by more than, it should just say by 1 rating level. So for example, if it's rated at a 1, but 4 of us gave a 4, then it could move one direction upward to a band 2. So the reason for the color coding is those are the items, or those are the examples in which it could happen. 1s and 2s, there's a lot more, obviously. Moving a 2 to a 3 so that we're getting kind of away from those 1s and 2s, the low scores. 11 could potentially move from 2 to 3, which would then make about 43% of total possible votes a 4 or a 3 or a 4. It still makes it look bad, but when you start looking at what the scores would be, if that many of us are voting 1s or 2s, then there probably is something that we need to evaluate and discuss anyways. It wasn't really pretty. I tried looking at making it pretty, and really the smoothest, cleanest way would just be to be the mean. Just select the mean. All 7 of us vote, put it in rank order, and whichever one is the number 4, that's the score that it gets. That really doesn't impact, or it doesn't give much influence for a minority vote one way or the other, either somebody that's voting really high or somebody that's voting really low. And the problem with averages is that the minute you get a low, it drags everything down. There's no way to recover from that. So the attempt on this was to allow that to still be able to move up if the majority of the board was looking at that. So there were 2 more points that I wanted to bring up briefly, I hope. I brought up the means, and then, the other one was that I should not have said more than 1 rating. It should have just said 1 rating. I do want to be very clear and transparent. After trying to get Excel to do this for me, I just threw it into ChatGPT, and Atlas and I, my guy's name is Atlas. We had a very extensive conversation, and this was about the best that I could pull out of it, looking at, I think there's 4,000 iterations of possible votes. The other thing that with these scorings, if we lose up to 4 trustees, these bands will still hold. There's no mathematical possibility to fall between these, and it would still give a general consensus if we have 3 or more trustees voting, just in case.
Technically speaking, you can't lose 4.
I'm saying if 4 resigned or were removed. I'm saying, Lord forbid we go back 5
Never
years,
mind, yeah, we had 2.
start twitching, then that's all I was looking at. From a majority, quorum, thank you. Quorum standpoint, we couldn't. I was just saying that if there were vacancies, this would still continue to hold. I dated it as 2026, but I would suggest that if we move forward with this, that we keep it consistent. There's no reason to not have this for next year if we continue in the same process that we're doing. But yeah, you can see there's a lot of data there. There's only so many, there's only possible votes of 7 to 28. So there's only 21 possible average or possible total scores you can get. And that averages out to these multiple line items. And I'm fine if anybody says blow it up and start over. When I say that, that doesn't mean do it. I'm just saying, this is not like something I'm ultimately protective of.
I think you did a good job with it and actually bringing those, by having that majority poll to move it, well, it can move either way. And so
It could, I think there's only 2 instances where it could move down.
Yeah.
Almost every time it would move up. But I
Yeah.
think there are 2 where it could move down. And I would suggest, in looking at it again, that we do option 2, which would move the lower band downward to 2.2 to give a few less options. And then band 2 would also move down by 0.19, but it's only because of the way I wrote it the first time, so.
I move that we approve option 2.
Can I just ask, option 2 isn't the one right here?
So I apologize. It would not be
Getting
what's
myself
on.
mixed up.
Yeah, it would not be what's on the agenda item. I only printed these and sent these over to Hillary about 3 hours before the meeting began. Actually, maybe only like an hour before the meeting began. Oh, yeah, so it did not make it onto the agenda as written that way.
It'll be attached to the minutes, so it's clear for the record. And it's on board docs now for the public.
So to clarify on that motion, that would be below 2.2 for band 1, 2.2 to less than 2.8 for band 2, 2.8 to less than 3.5 for band 3, and 3.5 or greater for band 4. If that helps any with the language that was already in there. And still maintain the majority average.
So I'll second Teresa's motion, sorry.
Okay, I was just going to throw that out there as we have a motion, but no second, so we need to address that. So we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, we'll go ahead.
Can I just make a comment?
Absolutely.
I know this is like awkward for me to do this. I appreciate Matt's nerdiness and the hard work he puts into things. I would just like to point out that this is, in my opinion, a significant departure from what Dr. Alsbury has recommended. I'm not like the biggest fan of the result of this. And so in the end, it's okay. I'll make it. But I think that you intentionally contracted with someone who's expert at this topic, and it does feel a little odd to make such a significant departure from what he has recommended, given all the other ways you followed his recommendation. So that's all I will say.
It's also a significant departure from what the state
Yes.
Scoring would be. And because CJ had said, hey, by the way, this is what it was. And I started looking into, I didn't spend a lot of time trying to analyze Dr. Alsbury's analysis. The threshold that he had isn't mathematically possible with 7 votes. And so I don't know if he was looking at perhaps another district that had more or fewer. Well, actually, I don't even think fewer than would produce what he was at. So where his bands fell, I couldn't see how he got that. And granted, I didn't reach out to him. I didn't want to disturb him and or run up a bill if so needed to go into it. But I do hear what you're saying, CJ, and I was like, all right, how do we make this cleaner? I just didn't see where the numbers were coming through, and so that's what I was trying to do here was, okay, let's look at what's our ability and the 21-point totals that we could use. So that was kind of where I was going with that. Thank you.
I'm curious if you could elaborate a little more on what the differences exactly are.
Oh, sure. I just mean from like what the thresholds are.
Yeah.
So like if we just compare option 2, for example, in order to be rated ineffective under Dr. Ellsbury's recommendations, the average would be the best you could be and still be ineffective is a 1.56. You have a 2.20. So that's whatever, quick math, right? 0.64 or whatever it is. And the same, it gets closer as you get to the top end of things. So 2.8 is the highest for developing. With Dr. Ellsbury, it's 2.27. 3, the highest would be 3.5, and that's where it gets a little closer, is 3.56. So it does even out as you get to the 3 and the 4, but I guess the short way of summarizing this is you've, in my opinion, made it significantly more challenging to be rated a 3 or a 4, as opposed to, but made it significantly easier to be a 1 or a 2.
Maybe taking into account, though, those escalators if it's a majority higher?
Yeah, so
Because
yes.
that certainly adjusts, if you look at the averages, I haven't run the math on it, but the wheels are turning and
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
it's got to equal it out. Or pretty close.
I don't know. I don't know if it would. Doesn't sound like a fun thing to find out, though.
Right. The only other thing I'd add is if we're down in the 1s and 2s, then
Sure.
we probably have other issues.
Yeah. But I think you can, anyway, I don't want it to come across as me being any kind of way. I think it's noteworthy that it is, I will go back to what I originally said, a significant departure, especially given that his recommendation was intentionally less stringent than the state's recommended ones for teachers. And so not only is it a departure from his recommendation that, again, just like you guys contracted with him, but it's the opposite direction of the state. Like it's more so. And that seemed like the whole reason for him to recommend something different was he didn't feel it was appropriate at the level the state was at, and you've gone beyond that. So those are my thoughts on it.
The other end,
And I love working with all of you.
when CJ brought that up, I started looking at things, and that was what led to the second option. Under Dr. Ellsbury's rating of ineffective, there would only be, and again, not to minimize it, but there are only 7 possible combinations out of 120 that would produce a band 1.
Yeah.
And so I started looking at that, and I was like, whoa, that's when I started saying, okay, well, how did he possibly come up with the numbers? And again, I didn't reach out to him, but that's where that was coming from of, okay, how do we look at that? And it could be that it was because of him rounding down or rounding up. But I thought 7 possibilities of 1 just seemed a little low overall. But with the mathematical averages, again, you start looking at what is possible, and yeah, it's a score of 15 out of 28 would be a 1, which would be almost 50% if that were a grade on a test. So, but when you have 7 people grading you, it does change things, and 1 outlier can swing that pretty dramatically.
That's part of why I think that this is different than when we're talking about the state standards and how they compare to evaluating teachers. It's not the same thing, where it's not the same evaluation either. So I don't think that the scoring being slightly different is inappropriate.
So I just have a question, just to make
Yeah.
sure I'm understanding this right. So on option 2, band 1, you have 40 unique combinations that give you the band 1, but then you have 11 on there that are highlighted in yellow. And those are all the ones that would bump him up to a 2 because the majority voted 2?
Yep.
Correct.
Or,
And in one case, the majority voted 3.
yeah, okay.
And that could be something that we decide of, well, if the majority votes a 3, then it goes to the 3. I was looking more on the other way. I didn't want it going down 2 steps, but it could say, okay, well, if the majority votes 3, then that's where it should go. But I was just saying it would move at least 1 band upward, or at least in the direction of the majority.
I was gonna say, I think, and does it specify that in there, that moves up 1 band? Because that's what I think, if you look at the bottom one that's highlighted where he gets 3 1s and then 4 3s, I can't imagine having it jump up to a 3. I can see it jumping up to a 2. So I can see it increasing 1 band, but not going to wherever the majority sits, because let's say you had, 3 1s and 4 fours. You're not gonna jump up to a 4 when 3 people gave him a 1.
This one wouldn't. You're looking, so your average there is 2.14, which falls below the threshold of 2.2.
Yes,
So the
okay.
majority of 3 would actually move it up to a 2, not a 3.
And Brooke, your example is actually the very bottom of band 2. It's the last line. And so it would bump to a 3 under the proposed language on the motion. So the language that I included is at the bottom of that. Hey, I'm not sure if diligent and board docs is the same, but the current language would say resulting average shall ordinarily determine final outcome rating. However, the final evaluation rating shall be adjusted 1 rating level toward the majority rating whenever 4 or more board members assign the same whole number rating, and the majority rating differs from the average-based outcome band by more than 1 rating level. I'd like to strike that more than and just say by 1 rating level.
Okay. And then just a comment, I'll have to rewatch the meeting when we had Ellsbury here on Zoom. But when we asked him about those numbers and how he got them, he didn't even really know. Like, he didn't even really have a good answer for where those numbers, or how he got those, came to those numbers. He talked about, if I remember right, didn't he talk about that he had used those in another district and he couldn't really remember how those numbers came to be? And so I don't really have a lot of confidence in that. Anyways, to use his numbers when he couldn't even really give us a clear answer on how those numbers came to be, I don't have a lot of confidence in those. I have more confidence in something like this that's been well-researched and thought out.
All right, any further discussion on this? We do have a motion and a second.
I do see Mr. Anderson's point about this is a fairly significant departure. And I wonder if we can possibly look at Dr. Ellsbury's mathematical option and still use the bump if there's a majority. So maybe we can look at those numbers as well, and we do have the motion on the floor, but I'm wondering if we should look at that possibility because of the significant departure from Dr. Ellsbury's recommendation, even though, Brooke, like you say, he couldn't give specifics on how he got to those numbers, but it would make it far more challenging for our superintendent to, in many instances, he would be ineffective potentially on the bottom part with a lot bigger window there.
Any further comments?
So to Teresa's point, just some very quick back of the napkin math. Dr. Ellsbury's 1.57 to 2.27 developing, 100% of that would fall under the current band 1. His effective rating of 2.28 and 3.56 would entail all of bands 2 and 3. So it combines, it basically says effective is going to be a total of 73 out of the 120 possible scores. So it'd be 61% of all scores would be an effective rating. Not counting what would bump up. It would, again, other than maybe 2, there would be another 11 that would then bump it up. So it would, I guess, actually totally be, or overall would be more than 75%, or sorry, more than 66%. So 67% would be effective. With just, and so all I did with that, just so that everybody knows, is, again, because there's only 21 options for scores, you can only have 7 through 28, and since we're not voting in partials, those scores of anything, so anything from a 16 to a 24 would be considered effective. Our band 4 actually matches with where we are. So there's only 7 ways to get band 4. 73 using Dr. Ellsbury's method to get 3 effective, and then 7 to get 1, and 33 to get 2. without the majorities. Then it plays a little bit.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and take a vote on this one. We have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Chair votes aye. We need to get a count.
I'm sorry, can you tell me who voted nay?
Good one? Okay, then we'll call that motion passes. Moving on now, item 5.1, the superintendent's report. Mr. Anderson, love working with you, by the way.
What's that? What'd you say?
I says I love working with you, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. We'll keep this one brief. Last week, we had a couple of, or maybe this may have been 2 weeks ago, semi-recently, this was last week. The Elko County Community Foundation made a couple of awards to two school supporting programs. One was to the EHS Booster Club to contribute towards the Warrior Field improvement project. That's great. And then also the Spring Creek Middle School PTA was awarded some funding. So that was exciting, and grateful to the Elko County Community Foundation. I put it on the screen earlier, but in case you didn't interpret it the way it was meant from being on the screen, you are invited to the convocation opportunities next week. So you are definitely welcome to come join. And then we also have the Back to School Resource Fair. That's going to happen on Thursday, August 13th. So that's a week from Thursday, from 4 to 6 p.m. at Southside School. Very important to note that while it is being held at Southside Elementary, it is not intended exclusively for Southside Elementary families. This is a Back to School Resource Fair for all families and students, where we will have lots of resources. More than 25 community partners will be there. You are also welcome to come join, and Hillary has some jobs if to help pass things out if you have a couple hours to spend, or maybe I'm sure even if you just had a little bit of time to spend, it'd be good to come check it out. And if you wanted to give back and support a little bit there, you absolutely could. And then just a reminder, by the next time we have a meeting, well, school will have begun. So we'll be moving forward with the 26-27 school year. Also, one more thing that I had on my superintendent's report from last time, but I neglected to mention, so I want to mention it today, is we, once upon a time, you approved a bid for phase 1 of the Owyhee project, and there were some bid alternates that were contingent upon receiving some additional funding from the state. We received that funding from the state, and so we will be moving forward with those bid alternates. And we are still trying to figure out how to make the next phase happen. But the bid alternates will be done, and we're still moving forward with that project. That is it for me.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. All right, we will move on now to our NASB update, item 6.1. Trustee Neal?
The update, I think the only update I have is nomination forms. If you could have them to me or Hillary or both by August 17th, so we can wrap them up and get them together for Rick on the 21st or whatever. Yeah, the 21st. So if you haven't turned yours in yet, you still have time.
Thank you. Do you have anything for NASB?
Just, I think you've probably got this, but the upcoming training, we've got several trustees that are scheduled to attend that on, let's see, it's the 4th. That's the only thing I've got. Well,
Yep.
And there's an executive committee meeting this Thursday that I will be attending virtually while at cross-country camp at 6 p.m. So as long as I have service, and I will be attending that.
Yeah, I'll add, I'll be attending too, and if anybody wants to ride, I can take up to 2 of you legally. So hit me up for that, and I'll be happy to go. And I don't have anything to add on that either. 6.2 was for the awards, so we'll just kind of skip over that because you just covered it. No, that's great. It's efficient. We're getting it done. Item 6.3, Board member comments and requests for future agenda items. Does anyone have anything?
I do, but I don't want to go first. Somebody
I'm just
else.
going to throw out there very briefly, the training for NASB, I am taking my own vehicle. We got the approval on there on the transportation, or sorry, the travel itself for the other thing, but I'm not submitting any transportation just because my travel restrictions and timing, I've got to go down and back in the same day. So if somebody says, well, why is he taking his own vehicle? That's my choice and I'm not building anything, so.
I'll also add then on mine that I drive my car all the time and I don't charge. It's my pleasure to do it for the board and be able to worry about my own insurance and costs and whatever. It's happy to do it. So. Anyone else?
I just wanted to let you know I won't be here next meeting. I'll be taking my daughter to college. We're driving across country to Iowa, so I won't make the meeting via Zoom either.
Fun stuff. Anything down here?
Sorry. Well, just to, Mr. Anderson, I know you, the first week of the class, you go visit schools, and I would like to join maybe 1 or 2 days, different schools. You let me know what schools and what dates, and we can figure it out.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder. We have put together a schedule to try to visit them all, so we'll share that with you guys for anyone who wants to join and be part of that.
I jumped in last year and was good times, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, the whole first week of school, yeah.
I don't have anything, but I do want to say thank you to all the teachers who've already been hard at work getting ready for school, and I just want to wish everybody a good new school year this year. I know students are already, I've seen band and football and volleyball and everybody going, and it's ramping up and it's exciting, and I think this year will be a good year.
I have a couple things. I know the district has put out a Facebook post, I believe, but a reminder about Nevada SAGE, which is the Superintendent's Student Advisory Group for Education. So State Superintendent Wakefield is putting together a student advisory group. So if you are a 10th or 11th grader, you can apply. And maybe some kids have already applied, but it would be great to get some representation from Elko County. So just a reminder, if you just search for Nevada SAGE, it'll come up with the page and the link and all that good stuff. They meet 4 times a year virtually, so I think it's a good opportunity for any student that's interested in that kind of work. Had the chance to welcome administrators at their training last week. And that was fun to see a few new faces and some veteran faces. I don't want to say old faces, but that was fun. So thanks for the invitation. There was a Nevada Board of Education meeting that I attended last week. We received, Commission on School Funding on their activities and recommendations. The board did vote to change the developmental delay eligibility age to 8, and that it was age 6. So we decided to go with age 8. We're working on goals, and then we also received a presentation on Read by Grade 3 and the retention, because that's still in the works. And we have to vote on that by next July, so we're just receiving more information. Something that was mentioned just as a little blurb was multidisciplinary research indicates that 95% of students can learn to read when they are taught in ways that align with the science. So that number kind of stood out to me. So hopefully that will help with not having to retain children by 3rd grade. And then a couple things. Just a reminder that we need to update our board goals because they have expired. And then maybe, I don't know if the strategic plan is going to be updated. And then possibly a follow-up report. I can't remember when the last time Superintendent Anderson gave us an update on the bullying numbers, but I thought since Hillary's kind of started a calendar, maybe we could have a follow-up report from last year's numbers on bullying and just discipline in general, not just that specifically. So maybe we could have that twice a year, like around first semester time and maybe at the end of the year or in the summer, just something like that.
I thought we did one in the spring, though I don't
think
remember
so.
for sure. But yeah, we can
But
for
I
sure
think it
calendar
was
that out.
just the bullying numbers. I don't know if it was all discipline. I can't remember.
Yeah,
Or if you could just send them
yeah,
to.
go back and,
I don't want to cause more work, but
Okay.
I think maybe twice a year would be nice for that. And then I did touch base with Jonathan Adler from Cartwheel. I mentioned that in a meeting. It's a mental health support for schools that would be free of charge to us. And he said he had connected with Superintendent Anderson and some of the directors. And they agreed to write a letter of support for their application. And they were notified that their proposal had been selected for award pending final approval. So I don't know if that means we will partner with them or if that's something you'll discuss with him, a possibility or not. Just thank you for following up on that. And that's all I have.
of course.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, yeah, I just want to say thank you to staff and everything for getting us ready for the school year, and it's exciting to see it come up, so looking forward to it. We'll move now to item 7.1, that's input from the public. Is there any input from the public? All right, hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.